If you're going through your spiritual awakening, you may have already realized by now that it can be quite challenging, very overwhelming and frustrating, and oftentimes even painful. But why really is that? Why is a spiritual awakening so challenging and so painful in many ways? And in this video today, I want to share with you why spiritual awakenings are really so painful and challenging. But before I get into that, I do want to start out by saying that even though spiritual awakenings are absolutely challenging and overwhelming, and you're feeling like you're being pulled apart piece by piece and eventually being put back together, even though all that, it is the best thing that can ever happen to you. Because throughout the process, your life changes in ways you never thought possible. Where you experience so many beautiful things, not just always bad things, but you experience so many beautiful things as you awaken, as you discover your gifts, as you open up your heart more, you're becoming more compassionate, you're uncovering your soul's purpose, your soul's mission, all of the different things that before your awakening, you didn't. Maybe prior to your awakening, you felt quite stuck in your life, very unfulfilled, and you knew something was missing. And because of your spiritual awakening, you will understand more of who you are. You will discover more of who you are. And you will remember again who you are. And so many beautiful things happen because of the awakening that when you have made it out of the worst, yes, the beginning is like the worst, right? And it can usually last not just a few days or a few weeks. It can even last years for you to get out of the worst part of it. But when you're out of that, when you are out of that initial phase of massive awakening and you look back, you will realize that it was well worth the struggle, the challenge, the devastating moments, even the painful times as well. Because you have grown and transformed so much that it truly was well worth all that you experienced. So I just want to start out this video with saying that because I know many people, when I first started my spiritual awakening, I had gone into different Facebook groups to just get support. And there were many in there that were actually fighting their awakening. They were using substances to numb whatever they were experiencing. And they were really resisting it instead of embracing it. And of course, embracing it can be challenging if you don't really know what's going on. But I really just want to start out this video by saying that even though spiritual awakenings are really challenging, they are truly the best thing that could ever happen to your life if you allow yourself to embrace it. So let me share with you the real reason why spiritual awakenings are so challenging and painful. The first reason is, you have to face your shadow. Meaning you have to go deep. You have to uncover a lot of the stuff that you have ignored for a very long time. Aspects about yourself are coming to the forefront that you may not quite like. And you really have to do some deep inner work to really uncover who you are. You have to uncover things from the past, old wounds, old limitations, or your own limitations, fears and doubts and all of that stuff that is really holding you back and keeping you stuck in the 3D world, basically, right? All of those things that are really holding you back. Things that you haven't really acknowledged about yourself. And during the spiritual awakening, all this stuff has come to the forefront. You're being shown all the things that are out of alignment. All the times that you acted in ways that weren't to your highest and greatest good, and all those things. So you really have to face your shadow. And that in itself can be very, very challenging because it requires honesty, brutal honesty, realizing that, yep, that was my fault. That I created that. Really taking responsibility over your life and everything that happened in your life. Because everything that happened in your life, you created it, right? It's because of the decisions you made, the actions you took, or the things you didn't do, right? What you put out there is what you got back. So what you're experiencing in your life is the effect of what you had done maybe even many years ago, right? You were always planting a seed. Every single day you're planting a seed. And it's like those seeds that we plant, they can be very, very uncomfortable whenever they start to flourish. So it's those things that you have to then face. It's the shadow that you have to face. Then the second reason is, well, you often feel very isolated because, well, you don't even really know what's going on. You don't really understand what you're feeling. Other people don't really get you anymore because they don't understand what you're feeling, because you're experiencing all these not so normal things that those who are not on their awakening journey, well, they don't get that, right? So you feel very isolated. You feel like you just want to pull back. You just want to be alone and deal with whatever you're going through on your own, because it seems like no one understands. Well, you probably don't even understand. So you may feel very lonely, very isolated, feel like you're really the only person that really somewhat understands what you're going through, and which really causes you to pull away. Then the third reason is, well, because of all that you're experiencing, you also no longer kind of fit in no more. It's like you're feeling like totally alienated in your own life, because you're no longer fitting into the box, basically, right? You're just so different, and things just don't make sense anymore the way they did before. You then feel like a total outsider, because especially as you start learning more about the spiritual ways, about maybe you're starting to develop your gifts and those type of things, and your loved ones, your friends and family, they may not understand. They may not get you, which makes you then even more feeling like an outsider, like you're totally not fitting in anymore, which can also cause you to isolate yourself even more. Then the fourth reason is that, well, relationships, they may also fall away, because as you grow, as you advance, you outgrow certain people, or they just may not feeling in alignment with what you're talking about, with your ways, so they just may stay away from you. That also can be very painful, because, well, you've been with them, for a very long time. They're your friends, they're your loved ones, and then they're just not really in alignment with you anymore, and either the relationships fall away, or it's just the relationship changes. That also can cause a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of challenges for you to just, having to deal with that too, on top of everything else, right? Especially if what you're going through and your loved one, your close friends, they don't understand. So they may not just say, oh, okay, you keep that to yourself, I'm gonna stay away, right? And that can also cause a lot of, hardship on your part as well. Then the fifth reason is, usually with spiritual awakenings, it also comes with a period of darkness of the soul, meaning you're going through a period of immense challenge, hardship, adversities. You feeling like you're hitting absolute rock bottom. And usually that happens, and that's like the most painful experience of this whole spiritual awakening journey, is when you're going through a darkness of the soul, because it's the dark night of the soul. A lot of stuff is coming up. And when I first heard the term dark night of the soul, I thought it was like one night where you're just really hitting rock bottom. Until I realized that, no, it's not just one night. It can last days, weeks, months, and even years. My initial dark night of the soul lasted 2 full years or 2.5 years, and it was absolute chaos. It was devastating. I thought I would lose everything that I own and end up on the street. It was that bad. But the reason why those really immense things happen, these really immense challenges, because it's meant to shake you awake. Because we're being given different instances to, awake, right? Like those little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, wake up. But if you're not listening, then there comes a little, bigger smack on the head. And eventually comes a big boulder just knocking you off your feet. That's the darkness of the soul. Right? And it's really meant for you to shake you to the core, to realize that, oh my God, what is going on? This is not good. This is not happening. And it's meant to really wake you up. It's like it's shaking you to wake up in a way, right? Think of it like that. You're being shaken, right? To like, wake up, wake up. It's kind of like that. And the dark night of the soul is really the most intense part of the spiritual awakening. But once you've gone through the initial phase of your awakening, the darkness of the soul, once you've come out of the worst, Yes, you will continue having darkening of the souls, but it won't be as intense as the first big one, because then it may only last a couple of hours, a couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks, but nothing like the very first one when it's like one darkening of the soul after another. It's like really a period of just immense challenge, immense hardship, immense just adversity, and it's just really devastating in many, many ways. So that is the fifth reason why spiritual awakenings are so challenging, is because we often resist what is going on, because we have to look at things from a different perspective, and that causes a lot of inner turmoil as well. Which brings me to the sixth reason, is there's also a spiritual death happening. Yes, it feels like you are dying in a way, because it's your ego, it's that old self that has to die off in order to be reborn. And when we're talking birth is not without pain. I mean, birth is painful for the woman, right? And maybe even for the men too, if you're there, right? But just the word birth probably brings up a lot of feeling like, ooh, birth, yeah, that's painful. So think of it like that. You are being reborn. When you're coming out of that phase of darkening of the soul, you're being reborn. And then that in itself, it's because a part of you tries to hold on to who you once were. But that's outdated. It's obsolete, right? That self of you, it no longer exists. So there's that period of spiritual death happening. You may even have fears or feelings like you are dying. Now, that doesn't mean that you're actually dying. It's just your ego, that old self, part of your personality of who you once were, that deeply asleep version of you has to die off in order to be reborn. You have to let go of what has been. You have to let go of that old self. And that in itself also causes a lot of resistance, because, well, you want to hold on to it. That's all you have known. You're then also going through somewhat of a period of identity crisis, like, well, who am I, right? Because then you have to get to know yourself again as that reborn version of yourself. That too can cause a lot of challenges and resistance, because, well, like I said, it's like you have to let go of what has been because it's outdated. You have outgrown that, and get used to the new you. Then the seventh reason is the more you awaken, your gifts start to kick in and you start to feel so much. You're probably becoming more empathic, more sensitive to all the things that are happening all around you. Energetically, you're becoming more sensitive. And that can be also so overwhelming, because most of the time you probably don't even know, is this yours? Is this someone else? What is going on? What are you feeling? In the beginning, I'm very sensitive to any energetic events like new moon, full moon, Mercury retrograde, all of those. I feel it intensely. Even when I go to certain places, I pick up so much. And in the beginning, I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going bipolar, because one moment I was absolutely happy and fine. The next moment, I just wanted to cry and crawl in bed and not come out. And it was not until my mentor actually taught me that, no, you're just very sensitive. You're picking up all these things. So if you're going through that, where you're going through a massive emotional roller coaster, that too could be because you're picking up so much from other people. Then, of course, your own stuff is coming up too, but also on a collective, on an energetic level, you're picking up so much. And that can be very overwhelming, where you may just want to say, hey, time out. I don't want to do this anymore, because it is so challenging to determine what is yours, what is not, and how to then really stay in your power, stay centered, so it doesn't affect you as much. And if that is you, I have a playlist for empath and intuitives and highly sensitive souls. If that is of interest to you, check that out, because there are different videos in that playlist to really help you the more you start feeling, to really manage that, to really maneuver through this without all the overwhelm. But that too will happen. The more you awaken, you will feel more and be more sensitive, and that too can be very challenging. And then the eighth and final reason is that it is truly physically, mentally, and emotionally draining. going through a spiritual awakening is draining on all levels, because physically you may have physical symptoms, ascension symptoms. It could be like flu-like symptoms, like you're going through a detox, because you're kind of going through a detox, right? Because you're letting go of a lot of negative energy, a lot of stuff that you have been holding on to, which can cause physical symptoms. You could even develop some kind of pain because it's like all that stuck energy is within you that causes those physical symptoms of pain, discomfort. It can even cause stomach upset, eyesight problems. I mean, so many different things. So physically, you are being affected by this awakening as well. Then mentally, of course, you have to work through all these beliefs, these doubts, these fears, and all the limitations. All that stuff is coming up, especially if you're picking up from other people. You're maybe even picking up their stuff too. Then you have even more doubt and even more fears and stuff like that. And on an emotional level is that it's just so draining, this emotional roller coaster where you really feel like you could be losing your mind. You're maybe thinking you're developing depression or bipolar or anything like that. For the longest time, I thought I was going crazy because it was so intense, until I learned that no, I'm really not going crazy, right? But it is just so draining on all these levels. Because, well, like I said, spiritual death, being reborn, it all goes hand in hand. But these are really the 8 reasons for why spiritual awakenings are so extremely painful and challenging and overwhelming and absolutely devastating in many cases as well, or in some cases as well. And I would like to know from you, how is your spiritual awakening going? What do you find most challenging about your awakening? Or are you actually going through it with more ease? Because not every person goes through a spiritual awakening with absolute challenging times. Some, it's not as bad. I know for myself, I was going through somewhat of a crash course of my awakening, where a lot of stuff happened very, very quickly for me to awaken. Like my spiritual awakening started in 2016, and the first 2 years, it was really one thing after another to really shake me awake. But it doesn't have to be like that. I've had clients that their spiritual awakening, it started early on. It was just like, bits and pieces here and there. It was not that intense. Now, I would like to know from you, how's yours going? Was yours really intense, or was it not so intense? Or what do you find challenging about it? Leave me a comment below. I would love to know. Also, while you're at it, maybe even hit the like button, maybe share the video with someone that you think could benefit from hearing this. I would greatly appreciate it. And I want to thank you for watching this video. Now be sure to check out this video here about releasing some subconscious blocks. It's a light code activation that can help you with that as well, as you're going through your awakening. I think you're going to love it. Until next time, make it an amazingly abundant, successful day. Namaste.